So, wanted to take a quick minute to share with you an alert that just came across my phone, and it happens to have something to do with President Trump and his continuous rambling of his mouth and a very cocky nature, which I believe is not a good representation for our country. Nevertheless, those people who truly don't believe he's operating in the best interest of our country. But here's a tweet at the very bottom of this screen here, and I'll link it down below. But it's a follow-up to something that was a tweet that he put out earlier today. And just to read through it quickly, it says, "I think that China felt they were beaten so badly in the recent negotiation that they may as well wait until next election of 2020 to see if they could get lucky and have a Democrat win, in which case they would continue to rip off the U.S. for $500 billion a year." Just the fact he's talking about another nation in reference to them being beaten so badly that they walked away from the table in hopes of getting somebody else in 2020. Then he goes on beneath that to follow up by saying, "The only problem is that they know I'm going to win. Best economy and employment numbers in U.S. history and much more." Now, isn't that the same thing he talked about during his presidential campaign as to what was so fraudulently done by the Obama administration on the false economy, fake stock market, fake job numbers? Everything was supposed to be artificial during Obama's administration. But it looks like all of a sudden everything seems to be the real deal under his term, of which he's not even, done with his first term yet, and everything is so hunky-dory. But then he goes on to say, it would be wise for them to act now, but love collecting big tariffs. So this guy's literally talking like he's still president and CEO of Trump Industries and not the leading nation, or supposedly the leading nation on the planet, that is doing business with our creditors and also the nation that supplies us all the consumer goods we use, especially as a consuming nation only that produces very little. I think this is very disturbing, to say the least, that this guy has tweeted out such cocky and arrogant tweets, man, that the world reads and responds to. So put yourself in a position of China, as well as all those other nations that do business with us, and you have a person who's basically bragging about how great everything is and how it's because of him, and how they basically, we love collecting big tariffs, or AKA taxes, being taxed even more so they are for sending us goods and buying up our debt. And so this is the article it originated from. I'll also link it down below, but this is the article I was tweeted on. And it says, "Trump vows to make U.S.-China trade deal far worse in his second term of his presidential term." And it goes on to talk about just the negotiations, how they broke down, and how basically this Chinese Vice Premier Liao He, who led the Chinese delegation to Washington for bilateral talks, in an interview with the Chinese CCTV broadcaster, said that Beijing will be forced to retaliate, but hopes Washington would exercise restraint. And so once again, retaliate. So literally, the word retaliate, it has a very negative connotation to it, because it implies that someone's being attacked. And if the Chinese feel like they're being attacked, their economy, their monetary system, their way of life as a nation is being threatened right now over big tariffs from a president that acts more like a CEO as opposed to the leader of the free world nation. And so the fact that they are contemplating or being forced to retaliate, what all do you think they will be capable of doing if their backs are against the wall and they have to do something drastic? Because I'm going to imagine, if you're trying to preserve your way of life and continue to grow and expand your own plans, you probably won't sit around and allow another nation to dictate and determine your future. You would probably take that first step. And as I've always said before, they are already setting up so much infrastructure / that alternative next world monetary system that doesn't really include the Federal Reserve note for the most part. So what's the chance that they retaliate by basically doing something that becomes very problematic for our way of life here? And it has to do with our national currency and all the debt and all those things that we've been so privileged to be able to send around the world in exchange for those goods and services. And so this is just something that I think is very, very dangerous. Well, I think President Trump, as the president of the United States of America, is playing with fire. And unfortunately, all those 300 plus million citizens in this country might end up being the victims of this CEO slash boss mentality individual that might be just rambling his mouth a little bit too much for me. But I'm curious to find out what you think. Is his approach a good representation of you, or is this guy going off the cuff by continuing to spew out all this best economy and employment numbers in U.S. history and much more? And so I would imagine that he really don't believe that, but he's saying that as if it's like factual. And so if he's touting all these numbers and they were fake under Obama administration, it's good to say that he's playing along those same cards, either because he has something planned or is supposed to be the one that is the reason why this nation transitions into whatever it is we're going to be transitioning to after our dominance is done. But I'm just rambling for now, but curious to find out what you think. Leave a comment down below. And more importantly, take a look at all these links and tweets. And if you don't follow the president, you definitely should follow him because he's speaking on our behalf as well as your own. So other than that, be blessed, be safe. Have a good evening. See you guys later.